Genesis 18:16 through 19:38. Devotional focus verse. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he, the Lord, said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. Genesis 18:32. In October of 1892, John Hyde sailed to India as a missionary. His early years in that country were marked by persecution, and there were few conversions. Longing to see the hand of God move, Hyde began interceding for India. So compelling was his call to prayer that by 1899 he was spending entire nights face down before God. In a letter home he wrote, Have felt led to pray for others this winter as never before. I never before knew what it was to work all day and then to pray all night. In college or at parties at home, I used to keep such hours for myself or for pleasure. Can I not do as much for God and souls? In 1908, at a convention for missionaries, John Hyde felt led to pray what seemed an impossible request, that during the coming year in India, one soul would be saved every day. 365 people converted, baptized, and publicly confessing Jesus. Impossible, yet it happened. By the next year, Hyde had prayed more than 400 people into God's kingdom. And when the convention assembled again, he doubled his goal to 2 souls a day. 800 conversions were recorded that year, and still the missionary showed an unquenchable passion for the lost. At the 1910 convention, those around Hyde marveled at his faith as they witnessed his supplications, Give me souls, O God, or I die. Before the meetings ended, John Hyde revealed that he again was doubling his goal for the coming year. As the year progressed, if on any day 4 people were not converted, Hyde said at night there was such a weight on his heart that he could not eat or sleep until he had prayed through to victory. The number of new converts continually grew. When his health began to fail, doctors warned Hyde that unless he got complete rest, he would be dead in 6 months. Still, he could not cease from his travail for sinners. And praying Hyde, as he had come to be known, lived for nearly 2 more years, long enough to see revival sweep through India. Only eternity will reveal how many souls were born again through the prayers of this one man. Intercession is defined as holy, believing, persevering prayer whereby someone pleads with God on behalf of another or others who desperately need God's intervention. We find a biblical example of intercessory prayer in today's text. Because of Abraham's intercession for the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, God did not allow destruction to transpire until Lot and as many as would accompany him had escaped. An intercessor must have a personal relationship with God that is strong and deep, close enough to learn the secrets that are shared between those with intimate connection. Notice that God said about Abraham, I know him. The implication was, he is my intimate friend. Can God say that about us? Remember, it isn't a question of whether individuals deserve God's mercy, but it is a question of how greatly they need it. Intercessors must have compassionate hearts and a deep concern for the salvation of the lost. Are we passing along the blessing of intercession by praying earnestly for others? Background information. The 3 heavenly visitors introduced in the first part of chapter 18 had come to make a first-hand inspection of the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. If it proved to be as bad as reported, destruction would follow. In verses 16 through 22, Having concluded their meal, the guests took their leave and started towards Sodom to make their investigation. Abraham, as a courteous host, accompanied them. The question asked in verses 17 and 18, which apparently the Lord addressed to himself, is answered in verse 19. The Lord referenced the unique relationship he shared with this man he had chosen to be the father of a great and mighty nation. He had confidence in Abraham because he knew Abraham would teach his children to promote justice, often translated as righteousness, meaning adherence to proper standards. The word cry in verse 20 was not an expression of sorrow or a plea for mercy, but rather a demand for punishment because of sin. The people of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were exceedingly wicked, engaging in perverted sexual practices. The words sodomy and sodomize are taken from this ancient city's name. Verses 23 through 33 describe Abraham's intercession for the city. He based his request upon the mercy of God rather than his justice. Beginning with the number 50, the patriarch inquired whether the Lord would spare Sodom for that many righteous. When God agreed, Abraham reduced the number by increments until he received assurance that if there were just 10 righteous in the city, God would spare it from judgment. Chapter 19 begins with a description of the angel's visit to Lot's home in Sodom. Verses 1 through 14 depict the awful vileness of the sexually perverted inhabitants of the city. The angels told Lot to take his family and flee, but Lot's sons-in-law rejected his warning of coming destruction, seemingly viewing it as a joke. Verses 16 through 29 tell of Lot's departure from Sodom at the urging of the angelic visitors, and the judgment of fire and brimstone which rained down upon the evil city. Lot's wife ignored the divine warning not to look back and became a pillar of salt. The concluding verses of chapter 19 relate how Lot and his 2 daughters fled to a cave in the mountains near the city of Zoar, and the immoral but successful scheme of the 2 women to ensure children. Conclusion: never underestimate the power of intercessory prayer. It can move the hand of God.
And the men rose up from thence, and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. And the Lord said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now, and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near, and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city, wilt thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous, wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak, peradventure there shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it, if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once, peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way, as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. Genesis chapter 19. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him. And said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man, let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes, only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came into sojourn, and he will needs be a judge, now will we deal worse with thee, than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides? Son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife, and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold now, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one, oh, let me escape thither, is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and, lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in, and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow, that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose, and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab, the same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benammi, the same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day.